like to invite Father Yazbiliak to come forward and provide an invocation.
My dear brothers and sisters, let us take a moment as we present ourselves before God in prayer. We give thanks, Almighty God, for your abiding presence among us. Thank you for your protection and providence. Continue to watch over us and do not let any harm come our way. May we remain faithful to your commandments, aided by the graces you continue to bestow upon us according to your riches in glory. Come bless our gathering with unity, hope, purpose, and vision. Build in us a deep respect, tolerance, and dignity for one another. Renew our hearts and strengthen our hope. May your vision fill our lives as we seek to manifest your love in our community. As we gather tonight, we ask for your special blessing upon each one of us. We ask that our gathering tonight may be directed by the knowledge of your divine spirit from beginning to end. Let our deliberations uplift the lives of the men and women in our community as we work together to build a kingdom of love, justice, and peace. Bless in a special way those whom you have entrusted with leadership in our community. May they be guided by the gifts of the Holy Spirit, the spirit of counsel, fortitude, courage, wisdom, understanding, piety, and fear of the Lord. Help them to discharge the responsibility entrusted upon them to the best of their ability. Together, by your graces, we will be empowered to build a strong and vibrant community. Strengthen our bond of communion and love for one another, so that we may work for what brings about mutual trust through freedom, joy, unity among all people, irrespective of creed, race, or class. Come speak your words of life into our beings. We pray that you will deepen our comprehension, broaden our thinking, and transform our understanding. For you are our wise counselor, our perfect teacher, and a faithful friend. Glory be to him who can do infinitely more than we can ask or imagine. Lord, strengthen us, restore us, and inspire us with your love. Fill us with your peace, so that as we journey onward, we will pour out your love and grace to all we meet on the road of life. Lord, may your name be magnified, glorified, and praised forever and ever.
Amen. Amen.
Remain standing for the salute to the flag, please. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you remain standing for a moment of silence to honor the men and women who are in harm's way protecting our way of life? Thank you.
Whereas on January 3rd, 2020, adequate notice of this meeting pursuant to the Open Public Meeting Act has been furnished by inclusion thereof in the annual schedule of meetings for 2020, which has been posted on the bulletin board in Borough Hall, filed with the Borough Clerk, published in Our Town, Herald News, and the Record newspapers, and distributed to all persons of any interested in requesting copies of same pursuant to said act. In case of an emergency or fire alarm, you must evacuate the building by using the exit doors in the room. They are immediately to my right and the double doors in the rear of the room. Occupants must exit the building by using the staircase and not the elevator. This meeting is being recorded both by audio and video and may be rebroadcasted.
Roll call, please.
On roll call, Mayor Maywood.
Here.
Council members DeMauro. Here. Flynn. Here. Herrick.
Here.
Ullman.
Here.
Bennon. Here. Borough Attorney Brian Ironman.
Here.
Borough Administrator Roberta Stern.
Here.
Borough Clerk Barbara Spoto here. We have a quorum.
I'd like to get a motion to go out of order to move the filling of the vacant council seat to first on the agenda. Can I get a motion for that?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
On roll call, Councilwoman DeMauro.
Here. Yes.
Flynn.
Yes.
Herrick.
Yes.
Ullman.
Yes.
Bennon.
Yes.
Motion carries.
So the county committee, Maywood County Committee, has provided us with the names of 3 people to fill the vacated seat. Everyone has had the opportunity to look at those names. Is there any discussion on those people? Or can I get a motion to select them?
Mr. Mayor, I move to appoint Louis Rower to the vacant council seat.
Can I get a second, please? Second. Roll call, please.
On roll call, DeMauro,
Yes.
Flynn,
Yes.
Herrick,
Yes.
Allman,
Yes.
Bennett.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Before I invite Mr. O'Rourke here, I'd like to thank the other people who have put their names in order to be considered for this. Being a council person, serving as a volunteer, it's a very difficult thing. You spend a tremendous amount of time and effort to do a good job for the borough. And as was the last time, this time it's the same thing. We're faced with very difficult choices. When you have three people who are stellar candidates, how do you pick one? So I commend the council on making that choice. I commend the people who are interested in it, and I thank you for volunteering. Mr. Rohr, you were either the lucky person or the unlucky person, but either way, you are the person. So we're going to swear you in, and you can take a seat on the council. Is there somebody who'd like to hold the Bible, or would you?
I'd be honored for anybody.
I'm going to get my glasses if I'll have to go read this.
You want to hold the Bible? I'll take pictures for you.
Good to see you. Good to see you. And you're going to hold the Bible?
Yes, I will.
Are you ready?
Mayor, maybe you want to...
Repeat after me. I, Louis Rower,
I, Louis Rower,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and to the governments established in the United States and in this state,
and to the governments established in the United States and in this state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all of the duties
and I will faithfully, justly, and impartially perform all of the duties
of council
of council,
according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
of course, to the best of my abilities, so help me God.
Congratulations. I want to tell you that my first year on the council, the person sat next to me spent the entire year lowering my chair, so I felt like I was 3 feet high. I'm pretty sure Councilman DeVere will not do that.
I would count on it. Don't give me a chance. Now you planted a seed, Rich.
So what?
You planted a seed.
I'm embarrassed to say it took me like 3 meetings to realize what the heck was happening. All right, we're lucky to have some proclamations today, and I'd like to invite Councilwoman DeVere to the front of the dais. So we had some inductees into the Hall of Fame, and we'd like to take this opportunity to present them with a proclamation. We'd like to start with Herman Hoffman. Mr. Hoffman here?
Yeah, Herman is a lifelong Maywood resident and a proud fireman. He's an agricultural agriculturist and a businessman, a member of the Bergen County Board of Agriculture, and director of the New Jersey Farm Bureau. He was also given, in 2006, by the Maywood Public Schools, Humanitarian Award in recognition of his continued community service to both the children of Maywood and the Maywood schools, as seen by his volunteer efforts involved in the school landscape decorations and assistance. Herman is an all-around good guy. Herman, good job, man. Congratulations.
I'd like to read this proclamation. Whereas for many years, Herman R. Hoffman dedicated his life to Maywood, and whereas his nursery has graced streetscapes, churches, as well as other businesses within the borough with beautiful flowers and greenery for all to enjoy, and whereas Herman R. Hoffman has been an active member of the Peerless Engine Company No. 2 since 1960, as well as volunteering his time and energy, and whereas he further serves his country with active and reserve duty with the New Jersey National Guard, now therefore be it resolved that the Borough of Maywood does hereby recognize and thank Herman R. Hoffman for never saying no when asked to help a friend in need, and for his long-standing contribution as a businessman in Maywood. I'd like Mr. Panos Jr.
Just his picture.
His family can come on.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Mom. James Harris Jr. Was a publisher of Maywood's Our Town newspaper. He also suffered from childhood polio. Right? But that didn't stop him from becoming a firefighter. And he was the mayor from 1984 to 1988, and the Maywood Historical Committee was actually formed during his tenure. And I love that he was a long-time participant in Ducks Unlimited because my father loves Ducks Unlimited. I know, it's a crazy thing, right? Anyway, congratulations, he was wonderful.
I'd like to read this proclamation. Whereas for many years, James J. Panos Jr. dedicated his life to Maywood, and whereas he began his interest in volunteering by becoming a mayor of Maywood Civil Defense, to be followed by serving as a member of Maywood's Undine Host Company No. 1, and as a valued member of the Planning and Zoning Board. And whereas in 1982, he served 2 years as a Maywood councilman, to then take the seat of mayor from 1984 to 1988, where during his tenure he was part of the senior housing project, now known as Lydecker Manor. The cleanup of thorium through the Superfund was begun, and the formation of the Maywood Historical Advisory Committee. Now therefore be it resolved that the Borough of Maywood does hereby recognize and thank James J. Panos Jr. posthumously for being such a valuable member of the community, as well as his contribution as a leader for the borough.
Thank you.
Is Thomas right here?
Betty, you're going to come up and accept that?
If I may.
Betty Belch is going to, from the name of the historical committee, is going to come and accept.
Yeah, we'll accept.
Right. So we'll just tell you, for those of you
Why he's not here.
okay, he had some surgery and he is in rehab, correct? You're welcome. He didn't not want to come. like some. He was a longtime resident of Maywood. He was a naval veteran. Can't read my own handwriting. And he did over 100 musical theater productions here in Maywood with both children and adults, and he became known as Maywood's Music now. And that's why he was honored and is now in our Hall of Fame.
Proclamation. Whereas Thomas Wright, who is known as Maywood's Music Man, for his dedication and passion for directing musical production to those interested in Maywood. And whereas he produced plays for Our Lady, Queen of Peace Parish Catholic Youth Organization, as well as Maywood Music at the First Presbyterian Church. And whereas his production of Cafe Yesterday consisted of songs spanning the 1950s through the 1970s with a cast and crew of 25 with over 50 musical numbers, which played to sold-out audiences for 2 straight nights. Now therefore be resolved that the Borough of Maywood does hereby recognize and thank Thomas Wright for his dedication for bringing the musical arts to Maywood. We're correcting typos. It looks like we should have.
Sorry. Our next inductee is Edwin Trinka. So is Edwin Trinka here? When I was looking at the we have Mr. Trinka, I thought actually that the 1968 article from the Our Town newspaper said that Mr. Trinka was also known as Mr. Library. He founded the Maywood Library. But what they said was, when they write the history of Maywood in some distant year, surely they will write in the name of Edwin Trinka, even though he held no elected office. Every town could use an Ed Trinka, because men have become such an integral part of the community and shower upon it such concern and best efforts are invaluable assets. And there are a lot of those people out here in Maywood. Ed Trinka's good deeds were many. His role in the story of the Maywood Public Library earned him the title of Mr. Library. He was responsible for bringing the Rotary Club to Maywood and was an invaluable member of the Maywood Chamber of Commerce. And for that reason, he was honored and inducted into the Maywood Hall of Fame.
Errors in there, I'm going to let Mr. Trinka's accomplishment stand until we correct this, and I promise you we'll read this into the record the next time, okay?
We'll get you out. We know where to find you. We'll drop you off.
What I'd like to do is that everybody who was given the proclamation and come to the front so we can have some pictures taken to the council. Council wants to come around. You want to do individually in the council, or you want to do a giant?
Giant, what do you think?
One big giant that was sent to the orchard, so one big giant, one little.
Say cheese.
There you go. Now over here.
Over there.
Over here. Over here. Smile. Perfect. Thank you again. Thank you.
Those are nice. I know.
I'd like to ask Jason Healy, Alberto Grillo, Luis Fonseca, and Stephanie Healy to come to the front of the building. So I was reading a statistic today in preparation to provide these certificates, and the statistic said that because of all the modern materials we use and a lot of the synthetic materials, a fire takes only 3 or 4 minutes from the start until it begins to become fatal to the occupants. And that's a pretty startling statistic, because if you think about it, it takes me 4 minutes to find my glasses. So on January the 24th, the people that are standing in front of us actually smelled smoke and saw fire in the adjacent house. And while one person called 911, the other 3 went over to the house, went to different doors, and actually saw somebody inside the building who was walking around confused with a flashlight. And they went into the building and they got her out, and then went back inside to make sure there was nobody else there. And I'm very proud to acknowledge their efforts, and I wonder if I could ask everybody to stand to honor them and their bravery. One person who's not getting an award today, but certainly deserves one, and that's their aunt, Mrs. Healy, who was a vocal person who wrote to me.
Nancy.
Come on up. Everybody look at Mrs. Healy. But again, sometimes heroic things happen, and unless that was on the news, or some of you might have seen it on the news, but sometimes it takes somebody to champion a good cause, and so we try. Yeah, Jason Healy. For putting the safety of others before your own, and to help your needs. Thank you so much. On January 24th, putting the safety of others before your own to help your neighbors. Thank you so much. Courageous act performed on January 24th, and putting the safety of others before your own to help your neighbors. Thank you. reminded me not to forget you. So just to make sure that I didn't, definitely want to honor you for awarding authority to the choir and anything else. Thank you so much. That was, by the way, the smarter thing to do. Nobody ever comes. Can I invite the council to come down?
Get a picture? Get a nice picture?
Where's Miss Healy?
Come on, Nancy.
Come on up, come on up.
I'll do it.
We're going to put you in the...
We got everybody?
There's a wide angle letter.
I got it.
I'll wait for her. She got it.
All right, we got it. Yes, we're on? Yeah, no problem. You're lost. I'll email you. No problem. I'm good. Yeah, we're good.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, everybody. Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you. Hey, listen, you did your thing, pal.
That's not working very well.
Take it easy, man. Congratulations. Congratulations. Yo.
At this point, I'd like to open the meeting to members of the public. Anybody from the public wishing to be heard, please come to the front. Let's start on the side. Come on up. No, come up to the microphone.
I don't need to, but I will.
And give us your name and your address.
My name is Carol Bass. I live on Park Avenue. Lived there for many years. My question is simple. When can we expect the U.S. flag at Nickerson Park?
I have an answer, but I'll find out for you.
Been down. There's been no flag there for almost 2 months or more. Okay?
Roberta, can you find out?
Yeah, no, absolutely. If you had called me, I would have looked into it. I don't know.
Well, I figure
That's
the
okay.
DPW and the police go by there forever.
Thank you.
Somebody should have noticed it.
Okay, thank you. Any other members of the public wishing to be heard? Let's go to this side here.
Hi, I'm Joe Runoff. I live on the Esplanade. I've spoken about this issue before, several meetings ago, about renaming the Esplanade, the Raceway Park, or the Autobahn. I don't know if you remember that. I don't come here and speak to you without a suggestion, okay? I'm not just going to give you problems, but one of the suggestions I have, which I think might be simple, I don't know, and I don't have nothing to do with police work, is finding out there are numerous police cars in the driveway, in the parking lot. Just take one police car, park it on the Esplanade, unmanned, and it's going to slow people down, because once they see I can talk this way too?
No, speak to the council.
I'm sorry. Once they see a car, they're going to slow down. They're showing the flashing lights, that's okay, but if there's no enforcement afterwards, there's no punitive action afterwards. It was ironically, when I spoke to you about this months ago, the next day, the poor guy in front of my house, my own house, got the ticket and stuff like that. So it was being enforced. I don't see it. And I'm not talking about 25, it's a 25-mile speed limit. I'm talking about people doing 35 and 40. Okay? And I'm right by Nellie Parker School, which is a lot of kids, okay? And which could be dangerous, all right? And that's one of the things that, in fact, I want to invite any of the council people to sit with me. We'll sit there, have some coffee in the house, and every 5-10 minutes we'll get a speeder going by. That's how often it is. It's not once in a while, it's every 5-10 minutes. So you're welcome to come by my house, we'll sit, have some coffee, and just clock the speeders. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other members of the public like to be heard? Gentleman in the front.
Hi, my name's Craig Pintato, live at 846 Wyoming. My sentiment is the same as this gentleman here. A couple weeks back, there was a huge accident on Spring Valley. Car flipped over. On Central, a car hit a speeder, was coming down Central, hits a parked car. The car hits a gentleman walking his dog. Good thing the dog wasn't hurt, the gentleman was hurt, but something needs to happen. Like he was saying, before I came here, I lived on Wyoming. So near the mall, there's a radar speed. They should be driving at 25 miles an hour. They're going 42.
Is that on Spring Valley or?
Spring Valley.
Yeah,
So,
Spring Valley's 35, I think. It's not 25.
Okay, so I mean it blinks for 25 to slow down, but 42 compared to 35. If it's 35. Now here's my thing, same as this gentleman, where's the enforcement? Like I mean, you can literally, I'm there like 2 minutes, people are going above the speed limit. A while back we were talking about speed bumps. You know, I live near Coolidge, near the park. There's no stop signs to go to the park. You know, we have kids in the area, you know, so. Just bringing it up again, I brought it up before, it looks like nothing is happening.
I'd like to, before we get the rest of the public to speak, I'd like to give you a couple of responses. I tend to agree. I mean, I think everybody on the council tends to believe that we have a problem. One of the things that we've done in conjunction with the police department is we've asked them to undertake some research for us. And the reason that's important is because we shouldn't be finding a solution to a problem we want. We should be finding a solution to the problem that we have. So you talked about two incidences, one on Spring Valley and the other one on Central where the car struck the parked vehicle and struck the person. Neither one of those was speeding. The woman on Spring Valley actually fell asleep. The person on Central was a distracted driver. The reason that I bring that up is not because we shouldn't be doing something, but because if we identify the wrong problem, the solutions we apply to it. So we also asked the police department, and I'll get into this in more depth, and I'll ask the captain to come up and speak to that after the public's been heard. We've asked them to do some stuff. We've asked the county what we need to do to change the speed limits, and there's rules that they impose upon us. And the statistics that we're coming back from those speed devices that we put there are showing it. So there's an 85 percentile threshold that most of the people are at speed. There's always some people that are. But the perception, and again, I share that perception, is that everybody down here is driving 100 miles an hour. Yet when we have a device there that measures it, we find that that's not true. That the majority of the people who are on that, and then we did it on Central Avenue, the majority of the people are following close to the law. Not everybody, but somewhat. So the reason that I point that out is because we have undertaken some steps, but we're taking steps that will address the problem that we have, not the problem that we perceive. So So I think with that, Aaron, again, I can say, I think all these people are speeding.
Right.
I think there's people in the crosswalks getting run over by every driver that's distracted. And yet the statistics that we have, the records that we have, don't bear that out.
So should we wait till somebody does get
Well,
hurt?
I
Is that-
don't know, no, again, you're not listening to what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if we believe that, if we impose a solution on a problem that doesn't exist, we haven't ever solved the problem. But if we understand what the real issue is, we can then impose a solution. And so I'm going to ask the captain at the end of the public session to come up and speak about this. But it is something that we look at, and we do have some ideas on. I want to just add one more thing. So one of the things that we look at, and this is a process that takes time, most of the roads that we're dealing with right now, Essex, Central, Passaic, Spring Valley, those are county roads, which means we don't have the right simply to put a speed table or a speed bump to reduce the speed limit. We have to meet a threshold. And on all of those roads, the threshold is, it can't be truck traffic, it can't be on its way to a hospital, it can't be more than 3,000 cars a day. Otherwise, the county won't entertain us asking to have that speed limit changed. The research that came back on Central is going in one direction, from Maywood toward Hackensack. We're hitting almost 2,700 cars a day. We're well over that 3,000, because that's a road that leads to a hospital. They wouldn't let us put speed tables in. They won't let us reduce the speed limit because we don't meet that threshold. So again, there's that 85% threshold where we'll provide that information. They'll also have the county police come out and in their speed. So we don't meet those thresholds. And again, I'm not telling you that because I disagree that we want to do something. I'm telling you that because it defines the problem for us and define that problem and define the solution. So sit tight when we get the captain up here. He'll be able to
One more thing too, so in Memorial Park, when you have Wyoming and Coolidge intersecting, so when kids walk to the park, the only way to cross is Coolidge, because the entrance is right there, but there's no crosswalk.
When the captain comes up, we'll ask him if he could recommend what their entrance is appropriate.
Okay. Thank you.
But again, stay, don't leave.
Thank you.
Any other members of the audience like to be heard? Hold on, I think you have a different-
Good evening. My name is Terrence Kenny, and I am the guy that was on Central Avenue that got hit by the car.
Any
Now-
relation to Captain Kenny?
My son. I've lived in 168 East Central Avenue since 1967, and I've witnessed more accidents than I can count on my two hands, where other cars rear-ended cars because they were coming down from Hackensack speeding. Now, Maywood put up a speed counter, and today, 8 out of 10 were speeding when they came down by my house. The two that weren't speeding probably slowed down because they saw the light blinking. So,
I can only go by the record that we have. That's a-
no, I know what the record you have, and we've talked about this since probably 1960, because it was always a problem. I've seen them shoot around buses on Central Avenue. I've seen people back out of their house, and a guy coming down from Hackensack go around them while he's still in and doesn't get going. I mean, something that's... I was very lucky. Okay, I can stand here today and say it. But something's going to drastically happen there, and then we're going to always have... I don't know what we're going to say. But what can we do about it?
Well,
Your point is, it's a county road.
that's true.
Okay. There must be somebody in the county that you know.
Again, so they have a standard that's imposed on them.
Right.
If we don't meet that threshold, we don't get the right to do what we want. We have to
Okay.
follow their protocol. But let me just digress for 1 minute. My comments aren't meant to excuse people who are idiots, who drive like fools, who talk on their cell phone, who act like they own the road, who act like we owe them something.
Right.
Those people aren't constrained by laws or speed signs or radar signs. They don't care. And so to think that legislation is going to affect people who drive fallacy. That we do have a solution, or at least we do have an approach. But I want to acknowledge that the people who are doing this, and some of them may be Maywoodians, those people who are doing this don't really care about you, or about me, or about people crossing the street, or about anybody else. They care about themselves. So my personal feeling is we should, I'm looking for a polite word to crucify, but we should impose the maximum penalty that's possible. And that's really the only solution. That's where I have said we need to identify the problem.
Well, one solution would be if they were set radar up again on Central Avenue.
Well, so one of the things that we did on Central Avenue, one of the things that the captain did, we put the radar sign.
Right.
And it records everybody that goes down
Right.
for 7 minutes. We're not seeing that 8 out of 10 cars are speeding. We're seeing a percentage, certainly, or so we know.
You know why, don't you? Because they see the light flashing when they're coming down
Well, I
the
think if
street.
they're coming from the top down toward Hackensack, they don't see the sign until they get almost on the sign. So the sign is going to pick them up. And again, I'll let the captain just...
The sign picks them up both ways?
No, it's only going...
Yeah, and it's only going from Maywood to Hackensack.
So what I'm saying, we have 7 days of data.
Yeah.
From Maywood into Hackensack. So you don't see that sign until you're almost on it. And that sign is telling us that the majority of people are not speeding. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody's not speeding. And again, like I said before, we want to quantify that problem. Because if we don't understand it, then we're applying a solution that doesn't apply. So you and I are in agreement that we see way too many cars there. There's probably almost 5,000 to 6,000 cars a day. Look, I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, I never saw that many cars on the street I lived on. So there's way too much stuff that's happening. There's way too many people. There's too many people using Maywood as a cut-through. But a lot of them are following the law. So in a few minutes, I'm going to ask the captain to come up and he'll address that. So
Okay.
thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Angela Redmond. I live, I'm neighbors with the general, oh, I'm very tall, so I'll do this. I'm a neighbor by the gentleman that just came up, and my daughter's car was hit and knocked into my lawn and bushes, and this gentleman was hurt. Also, we weren't home. My daughter's car was totaled. I've been in the neighborhood for 30 years. I've seen, like the others that have come up and talked about it. Sorry. Can I hold it? So I've seen my share of accidents. I've seen people sail into trees. I've seen the whole bit. I'll move away from the speeding and talk about distracted driving and also careless driving, and I think it's a behavior because they know that there's no enforcement on that road. I come from Essex Street, the train station, so I come straight down Central once I get off the railroad, and I'm following to my driveway on my bumper, or they're going into the opposite direction. I think one of our biggest problems where we live is that there's a deceleration and an acceleration going uphill and then downhill. So the number of cars and neighbors that are here today are being impacted by everybody picking up speed, whether they're going uphill or downhill. So I don't know where those pieces of research and radar are put, but I think that needs to be taken into account. I grew up, my kids grew up with me turning their cars around when they were young drivers because they would get nailed backing out of the car. There's no room for error. In the morning, I see people's babies, they're putting their babies in the car. There's neighbors that live across the street from us that have two rambunctious boys, and if they turn that, from their walkway into the driveway, who knows? Whenever we hear a car or whatever, we think it's a child, we think it's a person. Same kind of accidents that happen. It's been going on for a very long time. It's going to have a really bad effect. It's going to either go into someone's house or kill somebody on the street. And I think, we just really need to do something. They don't care. I think it's the same people that go back and forth to work in the hospital, and they know that there's no enforcement. They can speed up and down on Sundays. It's a clear way through, so they're speeding up on Sundays. You don't see but one car, but it's going, I'm telling you, probably 60 miles an hour when it's open road. when they're backed up from Maywood Avenue, they won't let you out of your driveway. If you don't have anywhere to go, then you can at least let me out of my driveway. So there's just a behavior because there's lack of enforcement, I think. So, I just really hope something can be done about this. Thanks.
Anybody else like to be heard?
Good evening. My name is Laura Ketchum. I live at 144 East Central Avenue. I have lived in my house for 34 years. I have been before this council 5 other times, obviously not you, but the Maywood Council 5 times about this issue. The last time I came was when Central Avenue was torn up, and they laid all the new pipes. And I thought it a perfect opportunity, since we were redoing the road, to do something. Nothing was done. I was told at that time, it's a county road, can't do anything. Called the county. County said, get your town to work with the county, we have to work together. Nothing happened. I've watched at least 14 accidents from Esplanade to 96 East Central. I had a neighbor have 3 cars taken out by somebody coming down Central, because that's a blind hill. You really can't see parked cars until you get up there, and if you're distracted, you'll never see them. Took out 3 of that person's cars. One hit the other, And I know physical stuff isn't really that important, not compared to Terry, but, when somebody's car is totaled, that's a real financial hardship for some families, from all families, let's face it. With what we pay for insurance, what we get back if our car is totaled, you could really lose out. You could lose your job because you don't have a car. So these are issues to us that are really important. There is no crosswalk on Central Avenue between Maywood Avenue and Summit. I can't go to my neighbor's house without worrying. I have a dog. I've always had a dog, different dogs, but always dog. I go to the front of my house and I wait until I can't see cars either way, because I have seen cars making a right onto Central from Esplanade and just got out of the way before they hit me. I could feel my coat practically. I have to race across the street to get to the nice quiet streets in Hackensack where I won't be hurt. I can't cross Esplanade. I see this van all the time. How you doing? You can't cross Esplanade because people go 50 miles an hour. I can't tell you how many times I felt like throwing my poop bag at somebody who was going down the street so fast. It's incredible. And I know the sign says maybe it's not whatever the threshold is, but something has to be done. Esplanade, and there are people, and this is a whole separate issue, but there are people who park their cars on the driveway apron because they can't fit in, and you're forced on Central to walk out into Central if you're walking your dog. Esplanade too. So, we're just all getting careless, and you guys are in charge, and the police are in charge, and something's got to be done.
Thank you so much. Captain, I wonder if you could come up with just, I'll call you in just a minute. So, I want to acknowledge first that you went out.
Are you closing the open?
One moment. I just wanted to call you up because we are following a theme that you and I have had opportunity to talk about and mention it to. Before we continue as a public enforcement, could you make some comments about what we heard?
Well, I don't have a vest on, so please don't shoot at me from behind. I'll start off by saying, obviously, I have a vested interest in East Central Avenue, so if you guys wanted anyone up here that's really going to care enough to do anything, any chief here or captain would do anything. Yes, we put a speed radar sign up to try to get some data, and yes, clearly there's some factors involved with the speed radar sign. Because if you're a conscientious driver and you're paying attention and you're driving down the street, you're going to see this thing flashing, and if you have half a brain, you're going to slow down. Then there's people that are either checking their email, having a drink, whatever they're doing on their way to work, and they're not even going to see it. So clearly, yes, some of the data that's on that speed sign will actually show the cars are probably slowing down for it. What the sign does tell us, though, is it tells us days of the week and time frames that we need to put our officers out there. And, we have our officers go out what we call free patrol time, where they're not answering calls, where They will set up on a location, whether it's distracted driving, the cell phones are big. It's difficult to see if someone's actually texting unless you're at them at a traffic light and you look over and you see them doing it. But we do selective enforcement pretty much every day. We get complaints from multiple residents. I'm talking to a resident right now on Grove Avenue, which you wouldn't think there's a lot of complaints, but, Maywood is a cut-through. You have nearly 16,000 cars going one direction in 6 days. There's going to be accidents. Unless you close the streets down at certain times of the day, I don't see that happening. But in any event, we see the targeted times. I'm seeing between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. We're getting some people that are either trying to break the record on East Central now. Because we have the sign up, they want to see 99, I'm not sure. But we know that data. We're going to address the data. And at any time, any residents that have a concern with their street, I'm sure if I asked anybody in this room to tell me if you have a speeder on your street, you're going to say yes. But you just need to reach out to us, let us know there's an issue, and we will target those streets when we have the time to do it, which is quite often.
Now, in the January police report, you do mention that you had 9 selective enforcement details were conducted, focusing on speeding violations, distracted driving. So we are doing that. When you do those, you target those to areas that you're getting complaints, or that you're having data come in from one of those machines?
So the signs on West Spring Valley work really well. You have to remember, too, to do radar, we have to be sitting in a certain angle in a certain way. Right. So it makes it difficult on some of the streets to do it. But yes, we get complaints from the town, from residents who will tell us. But hate it or love it, the street sign that we have now up on Central is at least telling us a time frame and target speeds that we need to look at.
I'm going to open the meeting back up to the public, but if you wouldn't mind just staying. But I just
sure.
have one more question. So we've discussed, and I also discussed with the borough engineer, the restrictions that are imposed on us relative to speed tables and reducing speed and other things on those roads that the county has jurisdiction. And based on the volume, based on, I guess, the hierarchy of the road, we're really not going to be able to reduce the speed. What's the recommendation that you would make? How do we deal with this? It's not everybody, it's obviously some people. What's your suggestion on how we deal with it?
Again, I'll say the best thing that I saw with this sign is at least a time of day. Again, the residents will tell me it's all day, every day. When traffic backs up from Maywood Avenue, down past Golf Avenue, trying to get to Maywood Avenue, you're not going to have people speeding. But at least we know, for now, over the last 6 days, the days of the week and the times of day we need to target. And we'll address that. Other than us doing that, you could reach out to the county. I don't know how far you're going to get, but...
I know that, I'll get to you there. I know that we have made some attempts, and I don't know that they're particularly interested in doing what we want them to do. But I am reminded of one story, so it does appear as though targeted enforcement is really the way for the word to get out there. I remember as a kid growing up, I don't know if anybody else had the same experience, but my parents used to drive to Florida a couple times during the year. And my father would drive over the speed limit until he got to Georgia. When he got to Georgia, he would do the speed limit, not that extra 4 miles an hour. Because in Georgia, if they catch you speeding, they actually had a judge in the meridian. So they would pull you over, and they would take you to get your justice right there on the grass strip, and you'd pay the fine. And that word got out there is that this is a place that don't speed, don't cross the white line, don't tailgate. So maybe that's really what what aggressive enforcement would do. It would get the word out for those people who, and again, we're not talking about law-abiding citizens. We're talking about people who choose to have their needs above everybody else's. Maybe that word needs to get out there, and we'll enrich the Maywood coffers by somebody paying a penalty. So, would you mind staying there when we call it? Are there any other members of the audience that like to be heard? The lady in the back, I know you were coming out.
Hi, my name is Tracy Mendez, and I thank you for this opportunity. I know this is a discussion, but I'm also on East Central Avenue, and I asked you to challenge the county that the threshold is not a one fit only. I have a 3-year-old, and I can't even get out of my car at 8:30 in the morning. I literally had people, we're not saying going 40, we're not going 50, 60, 70 miles an hour down East Central Avenue while I'm trying to back up with a 3-year-old in my car and they're going around me. There has to be some kind of awareness. So my challenge to you is to challenge the Bergen County and do not dismiss this because something tragic is going to happen. We have a Hackensack High School. My husband goes to NYU Hospital at the bus stop. There is no crossroad there. There is nothing. So I ask you all to take a ride on your way home and look and understand what our neighborhood is going through daily. And that's my challenge to you.
Good evening. Larry Carpentier, 172 East Central Avenue. Some of you know me. I live next door to Mr. Kenny, across from Mrs. Django. Had 2 cars hit in front of my house. One, a big Toyota Sequoia. I don't know if you know what that is. That's the biggest Toyota they make. Got hit in front of my house, pushed across my neighbor's driveway and up onto her front lawn into her shrubs. That was about 10 years ago. I had 5 years ago, I had a Ford Edge on the front, right in the front. Somebody sideswiped me. Took out the side of my car, blew out my windows, took off. The first lady, no insurance. Second guy, hit and run. Cost me $2,000 out of my pocket because, whatever, it is what it is. These ladies are correct, and gentlemen back here, 60 miles an hour is nothing on that road. I sat in my car yesterday because we're doing work on my house. I sit in the car just to do a couple emails before I go in the house. Cars come screaming by me, my car shakes. I sit in the car like this. This is how I sit to do emails because cars are flying by me so fast. And not to challenge the police department, but 27 years in that house, I've never seen a speed trap on East Central Avenue. Not once. I volunteer, my wife agrees. You guys can use my driveway to sit in and catch people speeding. If there's no car in my driveway, come in. Back in, use the driveway. No problem. Second thing I want to talk about is who's responsible for the curbs on East Central Avenue? Not the sidewalks, the curbs.
We are. The county does not, actually, all the roads.
The curbs on East Central Avenue are this big, right? Anybody?
Correct.
I could drive from the street right up to my house. There's no curb. If we're responsible for the curbs, let's at least protect the people walking on the sidewalks. Because if there was a curb there, my Sequoia wouldn't have went on my neighbor's property. It probably would have just bounced off the curb and stayed in the street. So you got cars that can come down 60 miles an hour, veer off, go right over the sidewalk, because there's no curbs. So, and that's been that way for 27 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good job, sir.
Come on.
Hi, my name is Alice Robinson. I've owned my home at 120 East Central. Tall, too. The basketball crew. 120 East Central. My name is Alice Robinson. I've been living there since 2001. Since 2011, 3 trucks, a Yukon Denali and 2 Tahoes, totaled at night when someone's parked on, like you said, like the gentleman said, when you're sitting, you can feel them going past. If you have someone who comes to visit you in your home and they park in front, they run the risk of their cars being totaled. My daughter's truck was just totaled this past April. And a lot of the times at night, it's because they can't see. When they're coming over from Maywood Avenue, going towards Hackensack, when you come over that little tiny, like, slight, we'll call it the insult to injury hill, like you have to walk it up sometimes, when you come over it, by the time you realize anything, you're on top of the car that's kind of like on the incline. So all 3 of cars were totaled. My neighbors has a couple of cars totaled, and it's just not on our side. It's on Ms. Redmond's side as well, on the other side. It's not just distracted driving. It's just distracted driving, just speeding, but it's also a combination of no lighting. Like there's hardly any lights. I used to not laugh, but make fun of my neighbor. She had a teenager at the time. I'm like, look, she's walking her 13-year-old across the street to go babysit. And all these years later, I have a 12-year-old that walks home. I get it. I tell him, go down Maywood Avenue, cross with the crosswalk, and then come down. But now I'm scared somebody's going to jump the curb and hit him on the way home. So there's a whole bunch of different things that are going on, the lighting, the speeding, the distraction, and no one's taking any accountability for it.
Can you find out?
Thank you.
I'm sorry?
I exercise on that road. and early in the morning, it is pitch black.
Okay.
So I don't recall seeing any between Esplanade and
And golf?
I mean, once I get up...
We'll take a look, and then we can go over it with PSE&G to tell them that we think that there needs to be more lighting there.
Can I just reply to that? Yes, over the last 5 years, we've had 17 car crashes between Maywood Avenue and the Esplanade. That's not counting the intersection of Maywood and Central. On Central Avenue only. We've had 3 parked cars hit in the last full 5 years. 2, the drivers both fell asleep between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. The third was a woman who got a bug on her shoulder, and she decided to get the bug off, and then she took out her car. So, I mean, definitely the statistics show that cars are an issue on East Central Avenue. Parking. I think my dad's truck got hit once many years ago. When they get hit, they get hit. The cars are doing,
Wait, did you say you hit your dad?
No, I did not. But...
Could I just take a question for a minute?
Yeah.
The gentleman had said that there's cars on Central that block the sidewalk. And I'm telling you, when I exercise in the morning, it's dark, especially in the winter, when there's snow on the ground. I got to walk in the street because there's cars blocking the sidewalk.
Yep.
Do we have requirements to cancel? And it happens on Esplanade too. So I come down from my house, I walk Esplanade up Central, and I'm telling you, I'm walking in the road at night because there's people that block that sidewalk. Do we have an ordinance about that?
We do.
Yes, we do.
I would say that it's been at least 2 years since I've worked a midnight shift, thank God. I could look into it, but I think that's a full-time job for one person alone every night, just to go out. If we were to ticket every car that's hanging onto the sidewalk, it would be an issue.
I don't know I really hadn't looked into it that much in anticipation of this meeting, and we're looking more at the traffic issues. But since that's something that has affected me, I know it firsthand. My own personal opinion would be if somebody's distracted and it's nighttime and they're going to hit a parked car on the road, I feel that's a whole lot better than hitting me in the road. And I think to force a pedestrian into that roadway because you have 7 cars and you've got a garage, or you have a space for 2 or 3 of them. Maybe this council wants to at some point consider asking for more aggressive enforcement or changing some ordinances to.
It's not just on those streets. We've had it happen on certainly many other streets, and basically it's the same answer. People have more cars in the household now than they did years ago, and the yards aren't big enough to hold all of them, and certainly not the paved area, which is one of the things that we're enforcing, because people are parking on the lawns, which also is against the law. So I think it's an education issue too. We have a lot of new people moving into town who may not be familiar with our ordinances, and when they buy the house, they don't really ask much about where do I put my cars. Once they're in the house...
There's things that a municipality can do. They can put grass pavers, they can give the greenery, and the car won't take in. You can restrict the number of hours they can park on the lawn, which I think makes the neighborhood look lousy. I wouldn't want to really recommend that. But the one that really hit home was when he said,
no question.
I walk the street.
Yeah.
So, and when I walk, I wear like this neon yellow with reflective tape, and I have a light that when I blink it on me, I shine like a beacon. And I'm afraid for my life when I'm walking down there, because I'm in the road. So, that's something that maybe we really want to look at.
We can work with the police department to see, what else we can do, and again, it is an enforcement issue.
And by the way, they don't own this, most houses don't own the sidewalk. It's the borough right of way.
Right.
So you have to maintain it, but you don't own it.
Right.
Thank you. Yep. Anybody else, please?
Hildegard Ansel, 65 Edgewood Way. The issues that occur on Central are also very similar to the same issues that we have on Passaic. And Passaic is very heavily used by pedestrians. There are many bus stops, and only a couple have actually crosswalk markings. So the 35 miles an hour limit, which is really not honored, it's usually, assuming there's no standstill traffic, of course, but other times they don't honor that. There's no enforcement, or if there is, it's not obvious, and it's not having an impact. The 35 is just too high for a street that has that much pedestrian traffic, getting to bus stops, wanting to walk to Pleasant Avenue,
getting in and out, not so much out of driveways, but the side streets, just to get out of the side streets, and the hazard of walking, the grass strips are so narrow in Maywood, so the pedestrian really on a sidewalk, because Passaic does have sidewalks all along, but there's really no protection. And then we had the unfortunate moving of a bus stop from Elm down to Elizabeth, actually almost to Esplanade, which forces the commuters to walk hundreds of feet every day. It's the same issue. I'm very puzzled. I'm not familiar with the threshold that you referenced, and unfortunately I couldn't hear most of what you said about it. But I have to wonder, Kindercamack Road, now that's a major north-south road, and it's a county road. It's 503, County Road 503. Well, the portions...
I can't comment on a road in another municipality.
Well, obviously they went to the county, and they were able to reduce the 35 to 25. Most of Oradell now, on Kindercamack, is 25 miles an hour.
I'm going to ask...
Okay, so how did that happen?
I'm going to ask... I don't know that I can...
It's relatively recent, by the way. I mean, it's not years ago.
I'm going to ask the borough engineer to give us
okay.
some input on...
And another example...
Can I finish yet?
I'm sorry, yes, I'm sorry.
So I'm going to ask, when you're done, ask the borough engineer to come up, and he'll give us a little bit of background on those restrictions that are being imposed on us. I don't know enough about Kindercamack to know whether any of those restrictions necessarily apply.
County Road.
Well, he'll talk about our stuff.
Okay, it's County Road 503, otherwise known as Kindercamack. And if you go up to Hillsdale, they also, rather recently, a portion of Broadway, which had always been 35, it got reduced to 25. Now, that's a county road also, 115. So how did that happen?
Well, again,
I'm not familiar with this threshold business.
I can't. I don't know the conditions.
Okay, maybe we can look into that.
The restrictions that we've been given from the county, so that's really what we're dealing with.
Yeah, okay. I mean, these are major roads that I'm citing. We're not talking little side streets, okay? Okay. I mean, these are major roads, and if they were able to do it, logic says, why can't Maywood? I mean, even you go into Passaic County, there's been a major change in Haledon and North Haledon, where they've lowered speed limits and have done an amazing amount of enforcement. There's a fortune to be made, actually, in Maywood with enforcement. But I'm just saying, so there is throughout the state, I forget what department regulates transportation and traffic, there is a push towards this, because why should... The staggering statistics on pedestrians, and we don't even have statistics on the almost, which I hate to think how many the almost there must be in Maywood. So if you could please find out how and there must be some way of doing this, because how do these other towns do it?
Again, I have no answer.
So we're going to address that, I trust, I hope. Okay, thank you. I could have gotten hundreds of signatures. Everybody, you received this, I trust.
Look, we're not denying that there's an issue.
Okay, I could have gotten hundreds, because everybody I mentioned this to wanted to sign.
Everybody on this
given at my age, I can't go out there and meet hundreds of people. Okay,
everybody
too old.
experiences the same thing that the members of the audience do. So, I mean, I live here, I drive here, I walk here. So, I mean, my family does this. I have small kids in my family that traversing streets. So it's not an issue that we don't recognize.
And the volume of traffic in the 10, almost 11 years that I've been here
I would absolutely love if somebody
is crazy.
Gives a solution to reducing the amount of traffic.
Well, we can reduce the speed.
Okay.
That's huge.
Again, so, I appreciate it.
Okay, I mean, we can't reduce the traffic. We can't put up barricades, I don't think. But
Could you come up and speak on that?
Thank you.
We had spoken about those issues, the restrictions on why we are limited to putting speed tables and reducing speed limits. And I know we were going to do some traffic calming at some point on Spring Valley, which we're actually waiting for the development at the town center. So we'll let somebody else pay for that. But other than that, Central, Passaic, Essex is a little different story. But
Sure. Honorable Mayor and Council, we've actually contacted the county directly to gather information. We've performed a review of codes as it relates to speed humps, and whether they're temporary or permanent. And speed humps, when you look at it, a traffic analysis needs to be performed of the roadway, and the state code is stipulated by DOT. The roadway can only have an average daily traffic, as you mentioned, Mayor, of 3,000 trips per day. So what would happen to gather that accurate information is you would lay tubes across the roadway, and that would determine the number of cars over that point in time to determine how many trips occur on the roadway. In addition, even if it was below that 3,000, if the roadway has a speed limit in excess of 30, say 35, you wouldn't be permitted to put a speed hump, temporary or permanent, on a roadway. When looking at those roadways that you had mentioned and the council was considering, let's say Central, Essex, and Passaic, those are county roadways. Those are under the jurisdiction of the county. We actually had spoken directly with the county director of the engineering department, and also reviewed the matter of the speed limit and speed humps. Speed humps would not be permitted by the county just due to the amount of traffic that occurs on both of those roadways. They also said even if the traffic didn't satisfy those requirements, the routes to Hackensack University Medical Center, they also have a substantial amount of truck traffic that travels along those roadways, and they would not want to see speed humps where trucks are slowing down on the roadways and potentially creating other issues as they travel over those speed humps. As it relates to speed limits, you do have the ability as the governing body to submit letters to them, and what they will do is what Captain Kenny had mentioned. They would perform through the Sheriff's Department their own speed limit study, where they would gather information as it relates to the traveling public speed, determine the 85th percentile of the speed on the roadway, and then based on those requirements, determine whether or not it's being exceeded or not exceeded, and then determine if they could lower that speed limit as the governing body would like to do so.
If we ask them to lower the speed limit to 25, and they come out and they do a study, and they determine that, and I'm just throwing a number out for the question, that 85% of the people currently go the speed limit, does that mean our case is supported, or our request is not supported?
Your case would not be supported then at that point in time.
So if we look at the data that we have based on one sign, which is not a study, it's just indicative of what we may find.
Correct.
So if we look at that one study that we have, that says that, and this was done over 7 days. So if we look at this study that says, the average speed limit on Central is 37 miles an hour, and that under that 85 percentile speed, does that mean we would be supported in reducing it?
And with that data that you presented, it would not be supported to reduce it.
So the more violators we have of that speed, the more likely we are to be able to reduce it.
Correct.
Do you know if there's an appeal that we can make for the county?
There always would be. There always would be, and I think the governing body may want to consider having them perform their speed study, because it would be their data, and even though Captain Kenny's data, I'm sure, is accurate and presents what's occurring, it would not cost the municipality anything. At least the county does the study, we would have their data, and then you would have your own data, and then be able to discuss accordingly.
Does the traffic threshold stop us from requesting this? So if we have 2,600 going one way, and again, 7 days is not, and one way is an indication, but it's not an absolute study. So we're going to be up probably 5,000 or 6,000 for most of those weekdays. Would that preclude us from getting that approval, in your opinion?
I don't believe so. It would preclude you from the speed hump, though, entirely. That would not be
So one of the
considered.
things you said is that some of these standards come from the state, right?
Correct.
So my understanding of the way the road hierarchy and regulation works is the municipality has only the authority granted to us on these roads, by the county.
Correct.
And the county has authority that's granted by the state.
Correct.
So if the state says every line's got to be purple, we may want them yellow, but they got to be purple.
Exactly.
So if the state says I can't put speed tables, does everybody know what a speed table is? So a speed table, we've all gone over speed bumps like in parking lots. And the purpose of a speed table is, it's just a little bit more gradual hump in the road. And it's sort of like a way for us to have a traffic calming device without having to have a police officer. And so you go down, the first time you hit a speed bump or a speed table, you kind of remember it, because hopefully it rattles the fillings and damages your car, so you don't do it the second time. So one of the ideas that we were throwing around was possibly finding some speed tables, and you can buy them, they can be moved, they're actually rubber. And you can actually install them on a road without repaving it or without closing it. And so it provides an impediment to people who might want to go down there at 50 miles an hour when there's no police officer there to give them a ticket. So we were exploring that, and that's one of the obstacles we're finding, is that we can't put a speed table because it's included based on the road, on its the amount of traffic there, and I guess whatever the type of typical traffic would be. So we also, just to let the public know that we've discussed other issues, there's a tenant out there that says, instead of having 4 lanes of traffic or 3 lanes of traffic, and think of Spring Valley in front of the mall, people get on a multi-lane road, and because it looks like a highway, they drive like a highway. And so there's a theory out there, it's called traffic calming.
Yeah, traffic calming, road diet is also another...
That says, make it smaller, make it 2 lanes, put some restrictions on it, kind of make everybody slow down. And so we were looking at that at Spring Valley, but because the mall is going to be coming in front of our local planning board to make some changes to their lot, we're going to let somebody else pay for that, and then hopefully, when they come in front of our board, we'll be able to impose some of those road diet conditions paid for by the developer, and not the taxpayers. Not that we're not looking. Other than what you heard, other than more...
I know there was also discussions, I know, by some of the residents of crosswalks and where they're located and where they're not located. One has to be at an intersection. The other issue is, and as some of the residents have mentioned, there are some blind vertical curves on, say, Central Avenue. You wouldn't want to construct a sidewalk, or not a sidewalk, a crosswalk in close proximity. There are distances that you need to be away from a vertical curve so that there's adequate sight distance so that someone that crosses the roadway would understand when they should step within the roadway and when they shouldn't step within the roadway. So you couldn't do it at every single intersection. You need to look at those roadway constraints as it relates to crosswalks.
I know Ms. Amster had asked about Kidnickmack Road. I'm not really familiar with it, enough of it. I mean, I know there are a couple small areas. Is there a reason why they could have been given permission to maybe we're having more problems?
Sure, and I'm aware of the location where they did reduce it from 35 to 25. One of the considerations is they could have had passed that 85th percentile with respect to the speed study. And once that qualifies, you would have the ability, the county would have then the ability to change the speed limit on the roadway. I don't have the background of that study, but that potentially would be the reason why they were able to do that.
So, Roberta, can we prepare a letter to go out to the county asking them to have us lower speed limit?
Absolutely. The information that I got, not dissimilar from what Greg is saying, is that the borough has to write a letter to county planning and engineering requesting that the speed limit be reduced, but that letter has to include specific data, basically backing up why we're requesting it. So that would be something that if we were able to produce that between Greg and Captain Kenny, once we have that information, then that letter goes forward. Once they get that letter, the next step is that they would assign the Sheriff's Department to go out and do this traffic study. When that information comes back, it's then decided, which is probably what happened in both of the other instances that Hildegard spoke about, that there were specific reasons why they felt, yes, in that area, they had to slow it down. Something was going on that was causing it.
We have 7 days of data from Central Avenue, and it does show there's some pretty speedy people.
Right.
So can you put together a letter for my signature that references this?
And whatever else Captain Kenny can give us.
And then maybe Captain can we possibly move this piece of equipment to,
Another area.
and do the same thing? And then so
I think if we have it in two different places and send that combined information, it'll be more powerful. And if we're going to do it, let's try and do it. I'm sorry?
Two places.
Yeah, no, I understand. That's what I'm saying. But instead of one place, move it, do it again in a different area so that when we send in the data, it's more powerful because we show the data coming in two different
We
directions.
really want them to come out and do it.
But they won't, in other words, from what I was told by the engineering department, they won't come out to do that study until we give them something that says, this is what's happening and this is why we need you to do something. So that's why, as I said, we can send that data along with the letter and say, you know, we are requesting that you do a further study so that it is possible that we will reduce the speed limit to 25 from, you know, probably from the Esplanade. Obviously, we don't control Hackensack, but from the Esplanade to Gulf Avenue, to Maywood Avenue.
Anybody live between Maywood Avenue and Rochelle Park?
No, but there are people on this document that Hildegard mailed in.
Thank you, Nancy Jenko.
Yeah.
So Roberta, again, my feeling is, let's get the letter out.
We have
Yeah, we have it already, thank you. Let's at least get the letter out, let's reference this, let's get the first letter out, and if they tell us it's not sufficient, then we can take more studies.
Okay.
Or we can do more things, but in my mind, I don't know if they're gonna tell us.
Sure.
But maybe we'll do, if we already have some on Central, and we send a letter out, then we could go to SAFE, and if we come up with the same thing, send a letter out.
Well, I think the letter, the data that we have, plus a copy of the petition, I think that should be included with the data.
Well, let's send everything that we have.
Yeah, exactly, but that's...
And I would also recommend the accident reports, too. Any accident data, I think would also foster the county to look at it harder, too.
That's what I think. As I said, I think that we can certainly put that together and get the letter out before the end of the week, right, Terry?
The other thing we ought to...
Maybe.
It is.
Or Monday.
Yeah.
Maybe the other thing we could do is put summonses issued along the road.
That would
I mean,
certainly...
look, what's the worst that's going to happen? Say no.
No, but that's it. But that's why I think we should combine all the material to make it as strong a front as possible when it's submitted. Because I don't want anybody coming back, well, did you think of this, did you think of that? We thought of everything. We have the petition, we have the statistics, we have the information from the speed data.
But a denial doesn't mean we're denied forever, it means we're denied based on the survival.
Right.
Can I ask a question? Rich?
What?
I'm sorry.
It's okay. Hildegard, you mentioned that you thought you could have gotten a lot more signatures.
If I wasn't 80 years old,
No,
I would have been out there.
I understand, but you have a great team with you. Would it be helpful for them to get more signatures to really show that the residents of this, I mean, the people on Central, from the canvassing I've done the last 3 years, every single person I've ever spoken to who lives on Central has told us that on the other side as well. So I know that I've spoken to you about it a lot. So would that be helpful, just to add to the ammunition?
The letter doesn't cost us anything.
Yeah.
So is it possible by the end of next week, we might have
Yes.
my signature to get out?
Yeah, so if you guys can expand that petition, can you update it? That would be great.
Maybe we'll need to.
Yeah.
By the way, if I look confused...
You don't have to, it would just be helpful.
If I look confused when Councilwoman Flynn was talking, I punctured my eardrum on Saturday, so I can't hear anything on that side of the room, so if I've ignored anybody on my left, I apologize. Let me just finish one thought. So, so if we could get this done by the end of next week,
Yep.
whatever we have, let's
Yes.
get it ready. Maybe what I'm going to suggest we do is, maybe rather than mail it, maybe you and I deliver it to the county again. And,
That's fine.
you know, so he's told me before...
Hand deliver it, we could make a copy for the county executive as well as the engineering department.
Because he said to me before, if there's anything he can do for Maywood, let him know.
Right.
So maybe this is a chance to deliver. And so I'm going to make one more suggestion to the people who came out tonight to discuss this. We do have another inroad. The same way you attended this council meeting, the freeholders have meetings also. And we happen to have a town bus, don't we? So maybe we fill that town bus, and let's go to a meeting. If we don't, we'll do the letter, we'll ask them to help us. If we don't get a response, or if we get a bad response, maybe we fill the town bus and go to a meeting. Stand in front of the freeholders. Everybody on board with that?
Yeah.
You'll write your names and addresses and phone numbers down on the paper, right? Okay, let me just finish this and then we'll call members anyway. Okay, I'm sorry.
Can I
could you-
just suggest that we put in the letter what the captain said about how many accidents have happened? He had
Right, we just said we're going to put
That's
that.
what we're talking about.
Okay, great.
Any other members of the public that to be heard?
Can I just really quickly ask?
Hold on, one at a time. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Mr. Plania.
Oh, sure, sorry. I apologize.
There was a lot of talking, I'm not sure, were you talking about the lighting, or is that somebody else's purview?
The lighting along Central?
Yeah.
The lighting along Central, I've driven the road at night from Hackensack, because I represent Hackensack also, and driven down Central Avenue toward Route 17. It is dark there at night. I think something that can happen is if you discuss and request lights to be installed from by
Is there a
PSE&G.
study that, for example, Neglia would have to do?
No, for lighting, no. You just contact PSE&G.
It seems dark?
They would perform their own study, and
They do their own study.
Yeah, correct.
So they'll come in, we pay for the lighting, so...
you pay for the lights, so...
We pay for the lights to be installed, or we pay the electricity?
You pay on a per, I think, I don't know if you pay quarterly or annually, you pay on a per light basis throughout the municipality to PSE&G.
Now, we're looking to do LEDs. Will that rate go down, do you have to say that?
Well, they tell us that that's what they're hoping for, that if at whatever point, but, they still haven't quite gotten to that point. If you remember, we approved, we signed on to the new lighting that they're, requesting from the DPU, but so far that hasn't,
I just, before we continue, I just want to back up for 1 minute and just kind of put this line in the sand so I don't forget. We're going to look at people parking across the sidewalks. With not only Central, it should be everywhere, and we should at least come up with some sort of a plan moving forward, whether we want to let people park on the grass, or whether we want to have a hard enforcement on that. That was the first one on Central. We want to look at the lighting on Central to see if it meets... Is there a candle-foot requirement for that roadway? Do you know?
It's not, there's not a particular foot candle requirement on that roadway, but there are foot candle requirements that PSE&G will perform a study with a light meter at night to determine the foot candles. And then based on that, we'll...
Might be the trees, because I mean, a lot of those...
It could be the trees, which would then require trimming to address it. That would be a way to address it also.
So I'd like to...
What's a foot candle?
That's the way that it's measured. Its light is measured with respect to lumens and foot candles. And also, typically, 1 foot candle is the minimum that you would want if you were walking within a parking lot that is visible. Usually on a roadway, you'd want 3 to 5.
And then the last thing we're going to do is, by the end of next week, we'll put together at least a draft letter with the statistics for accidents, for speeding tickets, for the documentation that the captain provided. We'll put it over in a letter over my signature, and once we publish it, you and I will go deliver it to the captain. And then everybody here, if we don't get resolution, we'll go visit the county in the bus. And Hildegard will drive, because she said she has a license.
Drive a senior van, that was a big beast.
Brett, and then one other thing is the targeted enforcement as well.
Of course.
So you said, I might have gotten the numbers wrong, I think, that there was 9 targeted enforcements that happened in January?
In January, yeah.
So is there a way to estimate how much of an increase we might be able to see or is that? I don't want to think I'm sorry.
No,
You might know the answer.
we're going to hit it hard. Just slow down on Central, because if you're a resident,
Yeah.
you're going to get a ticket too.
You're going to get a ticket.
I'm being smart.
I'm all on board with that. If you speed, I don't care whether you're, my own personal opinion, I don't care whether you're a resident, I don't care whether you're out of town, or I don't care if you're out of state, you deserve a ticket.
Here, here.
Well, Mr. Poliniak is still here, I just have one more question. Mr. Carpentier talked about the height of the curbs.
Sure.
Can you address that?
Sure. Typically what occurs, well, the curbs are owned by the municipality per the county's ordinance requirements. What has occurred in the past is the county has not milled the roadway typically like you do as part of your road program, which is take 2 inches of material out and then put 2 inches of asphalt back. The county, in some instances, just overlays the roadway where none of the material is taken out, and they just keep filling, and that's why you keep seeing the shrinking and shrinking curve along the roadway.
Is there a way, Greg, to just, or at least Roberta, maybe Gary, going out there just to kind of check out and see where this might, obviously, it's right near your house.
Hang out, Larry will make us coffee.
Yes.
Greg, could I just make one comment? I don't mean to get too deep into the weeds over this issue. My understanding is that the height of a curb to act as an impediment is a function of the diameter of the wheel.
Correct, and the speed limit too.
If I had a car with 13-inch rims like we used to have when I was young, a 5-inch curb stops me.
Correct.
If I ride my current vehicle that has 20-inch rims, a 5-inch curb doesn't offer the same impact.
Is a 5-inch curb the standard?
A standard Bergen County curb is actually 8 inches in height. The standard municipal curb per DOT is 6 inches, but county is 8 inches. The one issue that would arise, though, is if you look at building an 8-inch curb and walk along Central Avenue, the curb potentially is going to be higher than the green belt and the sidewalk and the front lawn of people's houses. And what would happen is if you built a curb such as that, without looking at raising the sidewalk, you actually would impede stormwater runoff from running into the roadway and then create a separate issue that would need to be addressed. So that have to be looked at if you chose to examine that, the curb height.
Thank you. I know that we kind of walked all over the public's portion.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the public want to be heard yet?
No.
Let the gentleman.
Good evening, Chris Tuttle, 648 Edel Avenue. Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I don't want to take anything away from the other topics. That's mine. It has nothing to do with what's been talked about. 2 things. First off, I understand you're spitballing ideas on how to solve this issue. The one thing I would ask is I had sent an email earlier to Borough Administrator Stern, and she acknowledged that earlier in her comments, is that the parking on front lawns in this town has gotten out of control. You drive to this town, it's an eyesore. It's not just 1 car, 2 cars. Some houses have 5 or 6 cars on their front lawns. It's not only an eyesore, but it's just an issue for pedestrian traffic, as you spoke about, cars sticking out of driveways. The same occurs for this. I teach my kids to look in the driveway, make sure no one's backing out, and I have to teach them to not look on the front lawn so cars aren't backing out. So that's number one. But the main reason why I'm here tonight, and I understand you have absolutely no answer on this because I already know what the answer is, but I'm kind of sick and tired of everyone talking about it on social media and whispering, is for 2.5 years we've looked at the center of town look like an eyesore because of a building that's not being taken care of or being renovated properly. I've seen houses being torn down, rebuilt. I've seen almost half a block on Pleasant Avenue completely be redone. It looks beautiful now. But yet the center of town looks like an eyesore. It's a joke of my friends who come to town to visit me, my family from out of town that comes to visit me, and it's across the street from their busiest business in town.
Can I give you an answer?
I'm looking forward to it.
We introduced an ordinance which requires the owner of a building, not this specific building, but any building, within a year after the permit is issued to have the exterior of the building look as though it's complete.
Okay.
So we can't force you to do the inside, can't pull your permit under the state law, but we can make sure under local ordinance that outside of that building and the grounds look as though the construction is done.
So with the ordinance passed, it can't be posted, meaning it has to go in effect from the start of that ordinance and not from the start of...
It's posted at the time, so it's in effect at the time the ordinance is passed.
Right.
But and I'm theoretically giving you this answer, I don't want to...
No, I understand.
...property. So if you've been building your house since 1965, and every year you put a nail on the board so you preserve your permit,
that's good for the
this ordinance passes, it says your permit was issued in 1965, you had until 1966 to make the outside look like it's done.
Understood.
And if not, we will fine you.
Okay.
We will compel you by taking your money.
Great. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
No problem. Again, I just want to, I'll give you 1 second. I know that we've sort of gone off page, normally this is a little more formal process, but I think it's important that we maintain a dialogue, and so I hope everybody appreciated that we're kind of doing this a little looser than we normally do. The gentleman in the back, you wanted to speak again?
Mr. Mayor, can I just, before the plan goes, can I just say one thing about the park on the lawn? Is that something that Jim could look at as well?
I'm sorry,
Kenny?
I didn't hear you.
Is the park on the lawn something that Jim Mazer
We
could
actually
also look at?
We actually have to clean up the ordinance to define who has the responsibility.
Okay.
So
So that might be something that's possible, right? Yeah, okay, thank you.
I'm back.
Your name and address.
I'm sorry, Joe Rudolph, Mount Esplanade. I taught for 37 years in high school, and you can make all the rules you want.
You were 37?
37 years I've taught in high school.
God bless.
I've been in high school for whatever, a long time. You can make all the rules you want. You can lower the speed limit or raise the speed limit, do whatever you want, but if you don't enforce it, it doesn't take it. You can make any rules you want with the kids in school. You don't enforce it, nothing happens. I want to commend the captain, correct, Captain? I wrote the right title. Commend the captain. Now, he told me, which I was unaware of, that this study on Central Avenue will actually tell you what the best times to send these patrols out, so you're not wasting your time. Which is very, very important, okay? That's why I thought it was really good. Very informative. Telling you also, say between 9 and 11 in the morning, those are the hot times.
Can I
So you could, wait, I just want to finish.
For 1 second, we don't want the public to know what time we're going to be.
No, I understand that. I understand that. But instead of worrying about the speed, you take that 15% of the speeding and lower that down to 5%, and then we're going to get some. 35 might be a decent speed, okay, for Central, I'm not saying. But when you go above 42, now you're asking for problems. So if you can keep it down to 37 or 35, it's okay. But my point is, you can make any rule you want, but if you don't have anybody who enforce it, it means nothing.
We're going in circles, but I do want to make one comment on that.
Okay.
So if we have a speed limit, and again, you don't believe that lowering the speed limit is going to have any effect? You think enforcement's going to have an effect?
I don't think lowering the speed limit will have any effect.
Let me finish. So
Okay.
if I'm a guy that decides I don't really care about the speed limit, and when it says 35, I decide to do 45, you think that's the same as if it's 25 and I do 35?
No, I think if it goes down to 25, it'll still be 45.
No, but again, so every tool in the tool belt, some people will be constrained by a lowered speed limit. So everything that we can do that may have any effect, we should do. Look, if worse comes to worse, and would the police wind up writing a lot more tickets, good, we subsidize the taxpayer's burden.
Well, you can pay a teacher's salary on the Esplanade. I mean, a policeman's salary on the Esplanade with all those tickets. I mean, you're talking about Central Avenue. I should know all my neighbors from the Esplanade. Okay, so I'm very proud that these guys got together, and I'm very proud that the council is listening to us about these needs. Okay, and the police, listen, you guys do a great job out there, so please understand that. I'm not, but what's that?
You need help.
Yeah, we need a little help, that's all. Okay, but thank you for taking my time listening to me. Thank you.
Ms. Django has wanted to speak, and then we'll move along with our...
I'm going to call him Terry because I watched this kid grow up. I just have a question for you. When you talk about the traffic...
Nancy, could you identify yourself?
You mean they can't hear me?
No, but you identify yourself and provide...
Okay. Nancy Django, 181 East Central Avenue. Lived in town from 49 and been for 1 month. Okay. I have a question for the captain. You say from 6 to 8 there's the heavy traffic and the speeding. Between 6 and 8 or 6 and 9, getting out of driveways is horrendous, and the U-turns that go on. Also in the afternoon, at the end of the business day, when people are leaving schools and work, the traffic gets very, very heavy. Lots of U-turns and driveways happen at that hour. And so I just wanted to share that, even if I know you grew up on the street, and it's really, really very dangerous. When I go to visit Larry, who spoke before, and his family, when they're afraid for me to cross. I've already had one car going up the hill, one car coming down the hill, then arguing because the one car sped and almost hit me. And I was on the top of the apron of the driveway. And the other guy stopped, and the two of them were fighting. And I went into Larry's house rather than watch that. But I thank the council for addressing the issue. I thank the police for being aware of it. And I just wanted to share the fact that there's lots of U-turns in the afternoon and in the morning. Because they can't get up, they can't get down, so they go into your driveway.
Yeah.
What's the question? I just have a question.
Sure. Come to the microphone, please.
I'm sorry.
And I'm guilty of it as well. So I have to just say that. So you know, like in front of your house, when you, the grassy area, what do you call that?
The green belt?
Yes, I guess the green belt. To avoid getting hit, if my brother comes to visit and he pulls up in my driveway, there's not another space available, I will pull up on that green part, just so I don't get slammed from behind.
You probably shouldn't do that. I mean, that really doesn't belong.
Exactly, no, it absolutely doesn't, but then when you park your car, okay, not only have we had 3 cars messed up, I've had rear view, like, you know, the side mirrors, I can't tell you, the guy used to look at me and like, you're paying for my kid to go to college. Just knock it off.
Remember, you begin to impede that pedestrian who wants to
Right.
walk on that street. So
Well,
and by the way, if we're telling the police captain we would like more selective enforcement, I think this lady just volunteered to...
Listen, I was honest though. I mean, that's honestly the best part.
yeah, you're
Like,
right.
I don't know what the correct thing to do, like sit and get hit, or kind of pull up on the curb a little bit, or...
Again, I don't want to
I know.
dwell on it. I think really the bottom line is legally parking is the option that you have. I don't think it's an option between legally parking and getting hit is, you know...
That might be legally parking.
Yeah, you know.
So we will continue.
Okay.
Unless we have some new stuff, I mean, I think we're kind of beating a dead horse.
Just
I
a quick...
have really quick question for Captain Kenny.
Sure.
Are you going to do the study, right now, we put the thing going toward Hackensack, are we going to do it going the other way as well?
I'd like to flip it,
Okay, great.
just to get a full, before we jump to another street.
Okay, I'm sorry, Mrs. Redmond.
Yeah, I just,
Come to the
really quick,
microphone.
this is 2 seconds.
Has there ever been Angela Redmond, 149. So has there ever been just some suggestion around camera usage also? Because there is, like I said, the abusive driving that we see. And I know that's expensive, the cameras, but I've seen on 9 on my side and all these other places where they have this problem where they're doing some sort of a video.
The cameras to show the speeding, you mean?
Yeah, or speeding, or just behavior on that road.
I think that illegal, we're not allowed to do that anymore.
Yeah, pretty much in New Jersey, they've outlawed the speed cameras, but it's something we could look at.
Yeah. And the other thing I just had, is there a difference between a bump, the speed bump that was discussed here, and a rumble? The rumble, like where you go through the easy pass, and you
Like a
have
rumble
like
strip.
just a, yeah.
No, she
Oh,
said
that's
that
just-
word, the thing that's supposed to be done.
It just makes a little vibration.
That could get people who are being distracted to
Right.
pay attention.
You know, if you go to, it used to be when you went to Disneyland, they had those rumble strips, that if you went to speed limit, it actually played the Disney theme. Does anybody remember that was made? Okay, yeah, so you could actually go down there and on the approach to the ticket booth, if you went to speed limit, it would play that little Disney theme when they would have it.
Yeah. No, just when you approach Easy Pass, they kind of do that, so.
All right, I think we've exhausted this topic. So we will close the public portion of the meeting. Barbara, we have ordinances.
Public hearing on the
Council? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm totally deaf on this side. Yeah.
So great. We just wanted to thank all of you for coming and sharing your ideas. We need to hear from you, and it's great that you all came.
Thank you.
All right, thank you again. All right, Barbara?
Okay, public hearing on pending ordinances, adoption of ordinances. We have ordinance number 1-20 and ordinance to amend chapter 201-4 governing the management corporation of the special improvement district. And we have ordinance number 2-20 and ordinance to amend the standards covered in chapter 247 entitled property maintenance of the Borough of Maywood Code in the Borough of Maywood, State of New Jersey.
Any members of the public like to be heard on either one of those ordinances? Seeing none, can I get a motion to adopt? Sorry.
You need a separate motion for ordinance, correct? You need a separate motion per ordinance. Okay, fine.
Right here, it says be resolved for both of them.
But we need it first.
Need a
So do we have a motion
A
to
motion
adopt?
to adopt ordinance 120.
Do you have a second? Second. Roll call?
Okay, on roll call, Demora?
Yes.
Flynn?
Yes.
Herrick?
Yes.
Allman?
Yes.
Rower?
Yes.
Bennett?
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay. Be it resolved that the mayor and council of the Borough of Maywood, that ordinance 1-20 and 2-20 be passed upon second and final reading, and that the borough clerk is hereby authorized and directed to advertise the same according to law.
Approval of minutes?
Okay, under the approval of minutes, we have the January 28, 2020 council meeting minutes. We have the February 11th special meeting minutes, February 11th, 2020 special meeting closed session minutes, February 11th, 2020 work session minutes, and February 11th, 2020 closed session minutes.
Second?
Second.
Roll call?
Okay, on roll call, Demora?
Yes.
Flynn?
Yes.
Herrick?
Yes.
Allman?
Yes.
Rower?
Abstain.
Bennett?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Presentation of bills and claims and request for public comment. Any members of the public have any comments about our bill list? Seeing none? Second?
Second.
Okay, on roll call, Demora?
Yes.
Flynn?
Yes.
Herrick?
Yes.
Allman?
Yes.
Rower?
Abstain.
And Bennett?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Correspondence and report of the borough clerk.
Okay, under correspondence, I had a petition regarding the speed limits on the state of Central. I think we pretty much handled that. And then second, I just wanted to report, I had a meeting the other day, the clerks had a meeting where we discussed the 2020 census. So mid-March, invitations will be sent out to all homes asking to complete the survey. You can respond by either online, by phone, or by mail. When completing the survey, you are basing your answers on April 1st. So if a family member is in assisted type housing, that person will be counted by that facility. If a child is born on, say, March 31st, and the child is still in the hospital on April 1st, the parents still need to claim that child as living in their home. In 2010, over 1 million children were not counted in the last census, which drastically affects school funding. So we need to make sure that all children are counted in the census. So starting in May, census takers will begin visiting homes of those who have not responded already to the survey, and the police department will be advised when census takers will be in Maywood. And on another note, any municipal no-knock ordinances do not apply to census takers. And progress.
Thank you. Administrator Stern.
I believe almost everything I want to talk about has been said, so just briefly, we did receive our new plaque for Sustainable New Jersey. We're now certified through 2022, and I know that the Green Team is working with our grant consultant to see where we're going to go forward with our certification. And secondly...
I'm sorry, wait, what consultant?
I'm sorry?
Grant. Right.
Oh, grant consultant, okay,
Yes.
thank you, I'm sorry.
And the only other thing, relatively good news, after all the wait, apparently our two chief's vehicles will be delivered the week of March 9th. They finally have been produced. And that's all I have this evening.
Thank you. Committee reports. Councilwoman DeVero.
Okay. Basically, I just have the rec department still doing the, working on the Willy Wonka for June 12th. Field permit requests for baseball and softball are pending, awaiting the schedule of work to be done. And, yeah, I mean, essentially, there's a lot of great programs that the rec runs, I think, and they really do appeal to a wide range of residents. You know, from seniors all the way down to toddlers. So I think that's great. I was going to ask members of the public to let Lisa know if there's anything that they'd like to see. But and then from the building department, I just have reminders about parking being prohibited on any grassed area on property. Oddly enough, dumpster and storage pods both require a permit. All permits require final inspections, house numbers must be on homes. It would be nice if we had an ordinance that said they also must be visible. And they're also reminding folks that our website, you can actually access all the borough codes. It's like an e-code thing. So, yep, and then I worked with Jackie and Ryan on some other stuff and progress.
Councilwoman Flynn.
So nothing for Shade Tree, nothing for Clean Communities, Green Team. They had their essentially a reorg meeting, if you want to call it that, and they're talking about figuring out what the different projects are that they want to work on this year. They currently have a bronze status, and their goal for the coming years to try to get halfway towards silver. It's a really big jump in the number of points that you need. So you just get about halfway there, and then maybe the following year. Because once you get a program going, you continue to get points for it for a number of years, so then you can go on to doing other things. So that all the members are looking at things. There was 2 new members, as you know, because we approved them. And there's some work going on about the Green Fair, particularly where Jackie, who is the liaison to the Board of Ed, has facilitated a meeting with Mr. Jordan tomorrow night so that we can talk about possibly moving the Green Fair to one of the schools, or maybe like either Maywood out in the front, we're thinking, or by the community garden across where Grant is. We've got that other little piece of thing, and maybe the small gym. We've got some ideas. So we want to run them by him and see if they're interested in the school and maybe doing even a green science fair. But obviously they would have to take the reins on that. So he's excited about talking. We're going to explore, see where it goes. So there's some other stuff we did, but Ryan's going to tell you about that.
Thank you. Councilman Herrick, please. Your report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The only report I have is from the TANF committee. There'll be a workshop here in the Airport Noise Compatibility Program Thursday, March 12th at the Homewood Suites in East Rutherford, 125 Route 17. The workshop open house is from 6 to 8 p.m. and then a public hearing will be from 8 to 9 p.m. So anybody who's interested in that report should plan on attending that open house. The other thing I had is I met briefly with the tax assessor this week, but nothing to report.
Thank you very much. Councilman Oldman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nothing too huge coming out of Board of Health meeting. We had a work group meeting with regards to the plastic bag ordinance that we had discussed at the last work session, and we definitely have identified some model ordinances that we could work from. However, we do have, we did come up with, a few questions that the body should discuss as a whole, in terms of what specifics we want for enforcement that we move forward to. So there'll be more to come at that in the next work session, and that's it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Councilwoman Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first thing for today, since we've been on a roll with the Maywood Police Department, is their report from January 2020 in referencing to target enforcement and all. Captain Kenny talked about when they're not answering calls, and just to give an idea, there are a total of 231 911 calls received in the month of January. So other than answering calls, when they're not answering, right, we talked about some of the things we do that targeted enforcement. I also do want to, commend the police department, particularly our K-9 unit. That lovely doggy has been on the TV and in the news. Actually, both Remy and Riker, I think, have been on the news. 16 times there's a request during the month of January for the K-9 unit. One request was for Remy, and the other 15 were for Riker. And the police department, if anyone remembers, we talked about that at-risk resident program. They've launched that program, the do-it-yourself kit that stores human scent so that people who are at high risk of going missing can request these kits at police headquarters, and if they qualify for the program, they're free. And this is something that they're doing here in Maywood, so for Maywood residents. And the K-9 unit is going to be meeting with the senior groups in the coming months to explain this at-risk program, which I think is a great program to enroll yourself in or a loved one, perhaps. Other than that, for our police department, release a traffic step alone because we did a nice job on that today. I met with Mr. Newman, and I will forward to everyone, or I think Barbara's going to put for our next meeting in our folders about the maintenance on the police vehicles and the DPW vehicles. So I met with Gary, and he created a spreadsheet for us to look at so we can, as considering the police vehicles, the DPW coming up as well, some things, and I'll talk about and break down what I went over with Gary, and some things for us to consider as we're considering new vehicles and budgeting for new vehicles. The last thing I just want to do is our personnel work group, if you don't mind. I figured you forgot. I'm just going to, just for the, Jackie and I discussed, we do have a recommendation from the personnel work group about the consideration of any advancement in salaries to be considered at the time of the budget, when we're preparing the budget. We're making a recommendation that the council consider doing things at that time rather than at different times throughout the year. So kind of a small assessment of the council right now, if that is the pleasure of the council, so that the personnel work group along with Roberta can move forward in consideration of things during the budget.
Should we discuss that in closed session under personnel?
I asked Mr. Ironman, and I think we said that we could...
You can discuss it here. Generally, it's a question about,
Yeah.
When do you want to review?
When we want to consider raises, just at the time of creating the budget so that we can properly budget, or
So we'll
should we
put that on the
consider
new business when we get to
outside?
that, rather than the...
No, it's the county, it's our committee report.
Up to you. So we
Yeah, no,
can
let's
potato
put it-
potato it. I mean,
Let's put it under new business so we can discuss it.
Okay.
Because nothing,
That's
because we
fine.
have...
That's fine with me. So get your thoughts ready, kids. Okay.
Councilman Rower, it's been the tradition of this council that the new person provides an hour-long report from the front of the...
I have been speaking all along.
Cut off his mic. I shut off his mic, that's right.
By the way, you get a pass on the first time.
I think Councilor Demuro had told me to push this button and found out that makes me silent. I didn't realize that earlier.
Well, I didn't want to do the lower your chair trick.
Okay. But I do want to take this moment, since it's, there's no place for me, I just want to thank the council for their selection of me to sit amongst them. I find that this council has been doing yeoman's work, and I hope that I can maintain that standard in my assignment. And I reach out to them to give me as much counsel as they can, no pun intended, on the assignment. Thank you.
Thank you. We expect
Thank
great
you.
things.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard. I am going to dispense with my report since I got tired of talking about all the traffic stuff. So I will move to resignations and acceptance. Barbara, do you want to read the resignations?
Okay, under resignations, we have Matthew Garofalo has resigned as councilman of the borough effective February 3rd, and Robert Goldberg has resigned from the fire police for the borough of Maywood effective January 14th.
Can I get a motion to...
Motion.
accept those resignations?
Motion to accept.
Second?
Second.
Roll call?
Okay, on roll call, DeMoro,
Yes.
Flynn,
Yes.
Herrick,
Yes.
Ullman,
Yes.
Rower,
Yes.
and Bennett.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Greg, if you wanted to leave, I think you're welcome to stay. I'm afraid that...
You're free to go, Greg. Godspeed.
Thank you so much.
Oh, don't speed on things.
Yeah, but don't speed.
We have two appointments.
And under appointments, we have appoint Dennis Ryan to the Green Team for 1 year, term ending 12/31/2020, and appoint Sean Fleming to the Green Team for 1 year, term ending 12/31/2020.
Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
Okay, on roll call, Demorro?
Yes.
Flynn?
Yes.
Herrick?
Yes.
Allman?
Yes.
Rower?
Yes.
Bennett?
Yes.
Motion carries.
We have 2 items on the agenda for approval.
Okay, we have item 1, a request has been made by the Maywood Police Department to host their annual National Night Out event in Memorial Park on Tuesday, August 4th, 2020, from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. And the second is the Rotary Club of Maywood requests the approval for its annual 5K run on Saturday, May 16th, 2020, with a start time of 9 a.m.
Get a motion to approve?
Could I just ask a question? Have we talked, this had come up once before about the possibility of combining the Rotary Club run with the 5K that we do at Fall Festival?
The Hawks one?
Yeah, because for what's involved in planning from both the police department side and others, if you could split the proceeds, and I don't want to look that way, but the dual position that Mr. Councilman Herrick has, we had talked about it, and then it kind of got dropped, and I think it's something that we need to look at again.
Roberta, I thought we had discussed that, and I think we brought it up at the last meeting, and if I didn't, I certainly meant to, so I'll bring it up now, that when we have an application, I know it is a lot on the police department, the fire police, et cetera, and traffic and all that, we had discussed that the only way we would approve, our suggestion was the only way to approve a 5K, whether it's Maywood, Rotary, or the Hawks, is that they would ensure that they have people to man also those cross-sections, which was part of that they would have enough volunteers to have less of a strain, a little bit less of a strain certainly, on the town and the fire police. So I mean, provided that Councilman Herrick, along with other members of the Maywood Rotary, are going to provide enough volunteers. I mean, that's certainly something to consider as well.
Last year, I was told, I wasn't at the run, but I was told that the last couple of years, the Rotary run was smaller than it had been. And so that's when the discussion started 2 years ago, really, about combining them.
It had been previously smaller. Last year, we had a banner year. We had 150 runners. This was a beautiful day.
Okay.
We had no control of the weather. I did receive a memo from Captain Stavola, I believe it was, after the race, highlighting a couple of things that needed to be addressed. Our plan with the Rotary Club and the chairperson of the 5K was to sit down with both the police department and the fire police and make sure that any problems or complaints they have are addressed before.
Had that taken place, though? I mean, before this is approved, had that meeting taken place between?
Has not taken place. We were waiting for an approval date before we set the meeting. But
Okay, I just wanted to...
we will address any concerns that the town, the police, the fire police have. As far as volunteers go, I think we have plenty of volunteers to help man the race and cover the water stations and whatnot. We've also asked for additional volunteers this year. Through the scouts may help us out the race too. We're, once again, waiting for a date for approval before we...
That's right. I mean, just as long as it's clear all the way around, because it had been an issue, and there was discussion previously, even though previous people on the council were runners and probably were in both of them, and that's why they were more familiar with it. Since I don't take part, I can't tell you how busy they are. Only on Fall Festival Day, but I can.
I want to say Councilman Allman did a fabulous job running in the Rotary race last year.
As did Councilman Bennett. Councilwoman Bennett.
Thanks.
All right, well, there you go. Thank you.
Give you the first and the second.
Motion.
Second?
Second.
On roll call, Demorro?
Yes.
Flynn?
Yes.
Herrick?
Yes.
Allman?
Yes.
Rower?
Yes.
Bennett?
Yes.
Motion carries.
The resolution is entitled, you like to read them, Barbara?
Okay. We have Resolution 54-20, South Bergen Municipal Joint Insurance Fund Risk Management Consultant Agreement. Resolution 55-20, Bergen Municipal Employee Benefit Fund Producer Consultants Agreement. Resolution 56-20, resolution authorizing the Borough of Maywood through the Maywood Police Department to participate in the Defense Logistics Agency Law Enforcement Support Office 1033 program to enable the Maywood Police Department to request and acquire excess Department of Defense equipment. Resolution 57-20, payment voucher number 1 for 2019 road program improvements. Resolution 58-20, payment voucher number 2 for the Maywood Avenue Streetscape Improvement Phase 2. Resolution 59-20, resolution endorsing PSE&G Small Grant Program. Resolution 60-20, resolution authorizing grantee of the Open Space Trust Fund Municipal Grant Program Award. Resolution number 61-20, resolution awarding professional service contract to Neglia Engineering Associates for surveying, engineering, and construction management services related to Palmer Avenue Improvement Services in the Borough of Maywood, Bergen County, New Jersey. And that resolution is for the amount of $22,850, which was proposed on December 20, 2019. Resolution 62-20, resolution awarding professional service contract to Neglia Engineering for GIS services necessary for pavement tracking in the Borough of Maywood, Bergen County, New Jersey. Resolution 63-20, resolution awarding professional service contract to Neglia Engineering Associates for services related to the 2020 NJDEP Municipal Stormwater Management Program in the Borough of Maywood, Bergen County, New Jersey. Resolution 64-20, resolution awarding professional service contract to Neglia Engineering Associates for services related to the 2020 Spring Road Improvement Program in the Borough of Maywood, Bergen County, New Jersey. And Resolution 65-20, resolution adopting the updated bylaws of the Maywood Mayor and Council.
Can I get a motion to adopt?
Motion to adopt?
Second?
Second.
Roll call?
On roll call, DeMorro,
Yes.
Flynn,
Yes.
Herrick,
Yes.
Allman,
Yes.
Rower,
Yes.
Bennett.
Yes.
Motion carries.
We are introducing some ordinances this evening.
Okay, under introduction of ordinances, we have ordinance number 3-20, an ordinance to amend Chapter 161, Article 5, governing free roaming cats. Ordinance number 4-20, an ordinance to amend Chapter 209-5, permitting appeals of the Board of Adjustment to the Mayor and Council. Ordinance number 5-20, an ordinance to amend Chapter 247, entitled Property Maintenance of the Borough of Maywood Code to add subchapter 247-6, so as to govern the maintenance of property storing and completing construction in the Borough of Maywood, State of New Jersey. Ordinance 6-20, an ordinance to amend Chapter 269, entitled Sewers of the Borough of Maywood Code to add Article 3 to govern new sewer connection fees in the Borough of Maywood, State of New Jersey.
Can I get a
Ordinance
motion?
Ordinance 7-20, an ordinance to amend Chapter 148 so as to add Article 2 to assist in the identifying of structures containing engineered lumber.
Can I get a
I've
motion
a-
to introduce?
I'll make a motion to introduce.
Second?
Second.
Roll call?
On roll call, DeMorro,
Yes.
Flynn,
Yes.
Herrick,
Yes.
Allman,
Yes.
Rower,
Yes.
Bennett.
Yes.
Motion carries. Be it resolved by the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Maywood that ordinances 3-20, 4-20, 5-20, 6-20, and 7-20 pass on first reading, and that said ordinances will be further considered for final passage at a meeting of the Mayor and Council to be held on March 24, 2020 at 7:30 p.m. at Borough Hall, 15 Park Avenue, Maywood, at which time and place all persons interested therein will be given an opportunity to be heard concerning the same, and that the Borough Clerk is hereby authorized and directed to advertise the same according to law.
Under new business, Councilwoman Bennett had raised the issue of whether salary adjustments should be limited to the times of normal increases. Can I open the floor for discussion on that? Anybody have an opinion on that?
Yeah. Can I jump in, Rich?
Sure.
I'm sorry, I didn't know if you could hear me. Part of our thinking about this was that, first of all, it just seems logical to consider raises when we're doing the budget, so we know we have the money that we're talking about spending, rather than to do it outside of that cycle, and that it makes sense to consider them all together, and it's just in addition to being, like doing our due diligence, it's showing that we're being fiscally responsible, which is what we have promised to do for the taxpayers.
Any other opinions?
Does this include anything that's currently under consideration?
Yes.
No discussion? So we're going to move on holding, I'm sorry?
Currently under, is that a closed?
That's,
I think,
hold on, what were you going to say?
So if someone was to request an adjustment in their salary, the recommendation of the Personnel Committee is that those adjustments...
That all adjustments wait until...
All adjustments will wait until the budget's passed and the regular raises are presented.
Yeah, that is the general proposal that is placed forward. If there is anything pending, or if you guys would like to discuss it, that would be a personnel issue, because it's something specific to one personnel.
Specific.
Then we would have to go into closed session.
Yeah. I mean, we could do it in the context of doing the budget or after. The way you described it, Roberta, when you brought it up the first time, was that it happens after the budget
right.
is done.
I have to say that I think you might have misunderstood what I said that day, because technically all I said was generally that's when we've done it.
Right.
Because the CFO, we always have the same money when the budget is prepared. The CFO is aware of and has always been aware that there might be raises. So when he adjusts that number, it's always there to include it. But not that we had to wait, because it's not as though we don't have the money. We have the money. It was just a technical thing that he had preferred that we wait. They are, in fact, raises, that is, not salary adjustments, but raises are retro to the beginning of the year. So that was something, as I said, that we had been doing. So I think there was a little misunderstanding about it. It wasn't a matter that we had to do it because we were worried about the money. It was process. As far as adjustments to salary, that has nothing to do with the raises that are done for more than one person, and it doesn't include salary adjustments. Salary adjustments have been made any time during the year when, in fact, they have been requested by a department head or by someone on the council who thought that an adjustment should be made.
And that's what we want to stop.
I think I have a different opinion. I think, my personal opinion is that, and having dealt with this for quite a while, is that when someone makes a request, they're owed an answer. Not a particular answer, but they're owed an answer. And it shouldn't be an answer that's predicated on some event that happened in the future. So if you ask for a day off, I shouldn't tell you you're going to have to wait 3 months for me to tally up the people who are available. When someone asks for an adjustment, we don't owe them an answer about the amount right away, but I think we owe them an answer other than wait till the budget for us to even give you an answer.
Well, that's why we want to have this as a policy, so that everybody understands that this makes sense. And I did understand what you said, Roberta, and I understood it exactly as you described it.
I'm not sure.
But yes, I did. As part of the budgeting process, obviously that includes an amount of money, and we can discuss raises, but it should be done methodically and at that time. If everyone knows that's when these things happen, then that's when they'll happen.
By the way, an answer doesn't have to be yes. An answer doesn't have to be no.
I know, but
I think that's what she's saying, Mr. Mayor, is that the answer would be all things would be considered, all salary adjustments and raises would be considered upon the creation of the budget.
Can we get a straw poll? Doug,
I think we should.
How do you feel on that?
My feeling going forward, if we put a policy into place that it should at best cover anything going forward, not anything currently being considered.
Can I just say one more thing, just to be clear? Obviously, if someone got a promotion or, like something out of kind of the order of things. That is a new hire. There are obviously times when discussions of salaries are going to happen outside of this annual thing. But to disentangle raises from the budgeting process just seems illogical. Like, you need to know how much money you have before you decide how to spend it.
I don't
You
know
might not have any
that I
money.
agree with that's how a budget's prepared, but I understand your point. So you're saying, once we have a policy in place, you don't have a problem with the policies, but anything currently in that should be, what's your feeling on that?
Once again, I think anything that's currently being considered or has been under consideration shouldn't be attached to any new policy we adopt today.
Thank you. Councilman Ullman, do you have an opinion on that?
Yeah, pretty much in line with Doug's opinion. I agree with the way Jackie described it in terms of trying to put a policy in place. However, I think things that have been going on and left unresolved should be resolved and not covered by any policy that we agree on.
Thank you. Councilwoman Bennett.
I think
Council
that...
President Bennett.
I think that both Councilman Herrick and Councilman Ullman make a good point about the moving forward, as we often do when government is, not going backwards. But so I like the idea. So okay.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure which idea. So current policy is different from future policy.
Yes. So essentially, what I'm understanding is that we're saying everyone is okay with the policy recommendation, provided that does not include anything currently under consideration.
Gotcha.
So it's a yes for the policy and no for current things.
Councilwoman DeMuro.
Yes, I'm good with the policy. As far as anything currently being discussed and the idea that I don't want to get into any kind of weird area here, but the idea that we owe someone an answer, like in an ongoing thing. I'm not sure why that answer couldn't be wait until April or to the budget process. But I know that we often do things, as of now. So I guess I'll live with part two.
Well, no, this is your opinion. It's not...
Right, I'm saying.
So your opinion is impose the conditions that you're proposing.
I think that waiting until the budget process to make sure that you have the money to give raises. And I think that, I don't know if it's just me, but would it be easier for department heads to know that, in February or March, they're going to make these recommendations rather than having it willy-nilly coming?
Well, see, I actually prepare budgets, and one of the things that I have to do is project those.
Yeah.
Project those raises. So I know going in, if I'm going to give you a merit raise, I know going in what the approximate amount.
So we're saying that's the policy that
That's
we're saying
what we
in
want.
preparation of the
Wait,
budget.
let me finish explaining what I'm saying. So and maybe it makes more sense if I just use you as an example, you're asking me to give you $100 a week increase. Well, if I give you that $100 a week, since I'm preparing the budget now, I can budget that amount, but I can give you an answer. I'm going to put you in the budget for that raise. As compared to, you just don't deserve it, I'm not, and I do that, I'm not going to give you a raise. So preparing the budget's an independent process of providing somebody with an answer. But your response was you think we should wait to even provide an answer, whether it's yes or no, until the budget's been prepared. Because don't you prepare the budget based on your anticipated spending, so you need to know what you're going to spend before you budget it?
No, because that just...
So when we prepare a budget, we get a worksheet. All the department heads typically say...
But what if you haven't budgeted for those things, which is...
Well, no, what I'm saying is...
That's what we're saying.
One conversation at a time. So if you don't know what you're going to spend, how do you prepare a budget? So if I said, prepare a budget for XYZ company, but I'm not going to tell you what anybody's getting paid, how do you prepare a budget?
No, I understand that.
Right.
But what I'm saying is you can prepare the budget, but what if
You don't have the money.
you end up not having the money? That's why I think the point is to wait. And I think that's responsible. As far as part two of the question, I'm struggling a little bit because I feel like I don't want to get into anything that is going to get us into trouble legally on discussing something we're not supposed to discuss, so...
I'll stop you there.
Okay. So, this issue has been lingering for quite some time and came from a previous...
Okay, I'm going to stop you. So the question is that anything passed, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, I'm
That's
just trying
fine.
to make this a little bit easier. That anything that might be on the table, or things under consideration, we're speaking generally, not about anyone in particular, anything there, the question then is, should we at least address those past issues until before we introduce a new policy? I think that's the best way I could say it.
Very nicely put.
Thank you.
Roberta, when you prepare the worksheets, do you anticipate the spending?
Yes.
Does Chuck anticipate the spending?
What I generally do before I meet with Chuck, I know what's coming up, and I let him know as far as certain monies that need to be put in, and then line by line, we go over what was spent in that particular line in the previous year. Was there money left over? Were we short? Is it okay? Do we need to add something to that line because of changes that happened during the previous year? Or are those lines pretty solid, and he can go forward and project everything based on that?
So when I deal with my discretionary spending, and I have a line item for whatever I spend, it tells me
Right.
what I spent last year, what I have left over, and what I'm requesting for this upcoming year, which may change depending on needs I may have. But when it comes to the wages and salaries, I project that based on the need that you're telling me.
And that's exactly what Chuck
So
does.
my budget is a function of the salary requested, not a function of the budget passed, and then I know how much I have left over.
Yes.
So, okay. Councilman Rower, do you have an opinion?
I have an opinion. It's a question/opinion. I've dealt with this issue for 25 or plus years. I've been on the side of the CFO, so I understand completely where the CFO is coming from. With respect to the concept, I believe that all things should be done at budget time in the future. A budget is a tool in which to project. However, I also believe that, or I've experienced that, any outstanding issues, prior to that particular motion going forward. It's a guide to let everybody know we will be doing this in the future. It gives everybody time. And again, not knowing and staying away from a personnel concept, if you have anything that's still outstanding, I would support resolving those issues in whichever way you know how to resolve it. And prospectively, I would be supporting this motion.
So since we're not making a motion yet, so just so that we understand the straw poll, your opinion is current issues resolved, currently future issues resolved, based on whatever the council decides is the policy.
Yes.
Jackie, your position?
I'm fine with that. That's fine.
Catherine, I think you were basically the same?
Yes.
Ryan, you were basically the same? No, you were basically the same? And like, Jackie, you were?
Yeah, it's going to end, when is the budget happening, exactly?
Probably not going to get it out for another month and a half.
At least 2 months, the end of April.
All right, so whatever's currently pending, we will resolve. Whatever's coming up after the Personnel Committee makes a recommendation, and it's either accepted or rejected by the council, will be the policy moving forward. Did I express that right?
Yes.
Yep.
But as long as the council then understands, adopting that policy would mean that any salary changes made, or check my math is right, for the two, we're doing the budget now for 2020, that any changes then would either be done now at 2020 when the budget is done, these are going to be future changes if reviewed, and then wouldn't be done again until we pass the budget for 2021.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, I mean, except for a new hire or a promotion or a request that has some validity by a department head for a particular person. And that's something that, could happen anytime, and it will not affect the budget because, as it happens in most cases, we're not talking about numbers that would have such an impact on our budget.
All right, so we don't
Well,
need to do anything other than move forward.
Yep.
I don't know about the third part. I mean, if it was something like a person's job change, yes. But
Well,
if
I
it-
said there are reasons that things happen, so I'm just saying, regardless of what they
But it-
are, that you
not
have to be able to...
regardless of what they are.
Well, that's up to you. I
Yeah.
mean,
I think, and I don't mean to correct you if I'm wrong, but I think what you was trying to say is that if there's a significant change, I think...
A change,
The
yeah.
policy is, hey, this is our policy, and if there's significant change, any
Yeah.
policy is subject to review. But understand what the policy is.
Like a change
Pretty
in
much.
someone's
Yeah,
job.
I could just say
Yeah.
something extreme has changed.
Yeah.
I don't want to go through the details or try to pontificate on some sort of situation. It's just,
Yeah.
she come to us, but everybody in town would know that this is the policy.
Right, and managers should know that,
Right.
review your things, see if you have requests, put them in.
Yep.
All right, so we're good. Any other new business?
One last piece of new business. Thank you, Hudson Kenny, for spending all this time today and going over everything. Thank you.
Yes. And we are very happy that your father is fine.
Yes.
By the way, Kenny, he was basically throwing you under the bus.
I'm just...
I was laughing because my father would be doing, Miles Tierney would be doing the exact same thing.
No comment.
You showed incredible restraint until you told the Officer Donatello to tase him. All right, I have one or two closed session items. Does anybody else have new business? You folks have waited around. Did you have something else that you wanted to say? No? Okay, in that case, we're going to go into closed session.
Whereas the Open Public Meeting Act, PL 1975, Chapter 231, permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances. And whereas the public body is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, and whereas the governing body wishes to discuss personnel and property acquisition/litigation. Meeting minutes will be kept, and once the matter involving the confidentiality of the above no longer requires that confidentiality, the minutes can be made public. Now therefore be resolved that the public be excluded from this meeting, and be it further resolved that the mayor and council of the Borough of Maywood do not envision that they will return to open session after the closed session, but reserve the right to do so.
Oh.
Can we take a 3-minute break real quick?
Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
All ayes?
Aye.
Officer, we're going to stay down here.
She's at the other end, that's her. Over there.